Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here, and with me, I've got our guy Hayden. Hayden, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for reaching out and making that connection. I saw you on, I think it was like a Splattercast, like roundtable sort
Mhm.
of horror news thing. It was, I don't know, was it even just 2 weeks ago? Maybe not even that long.
It might be like just 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
And I got all going in the chat and everything, and then you hit
Mhm.
me up not too long after, and you were like, "Hey, man, do you want to, have a, discuss a horror topic?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I heard that you said that you had never seen The Thing when I was watching the
Yeah.
newscast there." So I was like, "Oh shit, that's kind of a movie that so many people in the horror community love. I'm a huge fan of it. I think with The Thing, The Fly, and The Blob in the 80s, we got like some really great horror movie remakes in that decade. And yeah, I know this is one that for a lot of people who are Carpenter fans, like this might even beat out Halloween in their ranking of Carpenter films, which actually there's a poll going on in the chat, everyone. Is The Thing John Carpenter's best film? And hell yeah is winning resoundingly right now at 64%. So yeah, and I'm a big fan. You're coming at it for the very first time here, so I'm excited to talk about what you thought of the film. It's one of those movies that maybe even like from my perspective gets a little bit better every time you watch it because there's a lot to follow and a lot to remember and all that kind of stuff. But real quick before we get going, I want to say what's up to everyone in the chat that's hanging out with us tonight. We've got Lamontre Gillard in the chat. What's happening, Lamontre? About 90% of the time, the first guy to comment here. There you go. That's Lamontre's thing. And we got our guy, Eli Cortez, one of our great channel members and Death Squad mods here hanging out. What's happening, Eli? I was going to open up that box that you sent, the first box that I got on Saturday, but you didn't pop up in the chat. So I waited, and we'll have to do that when the other one arrives as well. What's happening, Paula? Great to see ya. We got Big Rod in the chat, one of our great channel members, and Paula is a channel member as well. We've also got Medley Man who says The Thing is the second best remake of all time, only being rivaled by Scarface. This is probably wrong. I don't know enough remakes. Well, I like the self-awareness there, Medley Man. That's good. I mean, it's a great remake. What can you say? Big Rod says I would say The Thing is less of a remake and more of a reimagining of the source material. I totally hear you on that. It's 30 years later, and yeah, they're doing something totally different than the original film for sure. We got Gene Whitcomb in the chat. What's happening, Gene? Great to see you hanging out. We've got Robert the Wolfman. Ow, ow! Another one of our great Death Squad mods and channel members. And let's see who else is hanging out. Jigsaw is hanging out in the chat. What's happening, Jigsaw? Great to see you. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've caught up with everyone that's hanging out in the chat so far. And I guess before we really dive into like hitting specific topics, what did you think? What are your overall thoughts on John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982?
All right. So overall, and if I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of it kind of dragged for me. It felt very slow. Um, and like you just said a second ago, there's a lot to remember. So I'm sure I'll have to watch it probably a couple more times to form like an actual full opinion on it.
Hmm.
But I mean, other than that, overall, I'd say it was very interesting. Um, I think that, which we'll get into the effects. I think the effects were incredible. Um,
Yeah.
you know, good cast, good plot, good story. Everything about it was good. It just kind of felt a little slow for me, and I think that's only because it's just an older movie, and this was my first time seeing it.
Sure. Yeah. And I think sometimes maybe even, if you had seen it as a kid, yeah, just like sometimes having that perspective sort of puts you in awe of a movie when you revisit it. But yeah, it's I think those are like pretty fair points. I mean, it is about 2 hours long, which to me is like, not really pushing it, but I think that I one of the things I say on my channel all the time is like, I'll take a shorter movie any day of the week.
Yeah,
So if you take like 10 minutes out of a movie, I'm probably not going to be mad about it.
yeah,
And maybe, with The Thing, there's just so much like there's still so much mystery going on and so much like debate over who is the thing at certain points of the story. I mean, sometimes it's obvious, other times not so much. And then of course the great debate. I don't know if you've ever heard of this one before seeing the film, but you know, McCready and Childs being the last two left, is one of them,
Mhm.
you know, or both of them the thing? I mean, I'm guessing maybe not, but maybe one of them is. So there's just that whole debate that goes down as well. And yeah, I mean, I think the first time I saw this, I was probably like, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12, something like that. A movie that my older brother Matt showed me. I think we watched like Alien, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and The Thing, like, you know, relatively close to one another.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, and this movie is definitely, I think you can put it in that slow burn category for sure, because it's got that kind of, you know, even though like Big Rod said, it is a reimagining of the original, it kind of does have a little bit of that 50s, 60s like sci-fi kind of thing, like a bunch of dudes that like walk to some place and look around and like observe it and go back to a room and talk about what they just observed. You know, it's very like there's
Yeah.
certain parts of it that are so by the numbers. And are you a big Romero fan? Like the
Mm,
Night of the Living Dead, any of those movies? Anything
not
like that?
not 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 too big on those, no.
Okay. Because when I watch a movie like The Thing, I'm like, I know that this is John Carpenter, but I get that Romero kind of vibe. I don't know if the folks in the chat, if you guys ever pick up on this with The Thing, just that whole like the paranoia of it all, like really makes me think of like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Like you're never quite safe, you know, you can never really
Mm.
like relax. Like impending doom is always around you. And I get that sort of sense here in The Thing. And yeah, let's say what's up to Brother Fluff. What's happening, Brother Fluff? Great to see you. Thank you, Eli, for dropping Hayden's link in the chat. And yeah, guys, you can check it out. I've got links in the description below, so you can check out his YouTube and Instagram there from the links down there. Big Rod says the isolation is very Romero-ish. I do get that Romero kind of vibe here. There you go. Thank you so much, Eli. Yeah, go on over to Hayden's channel, give him a sub. You're sort of knocking on 2,000 there over on the channel, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I'm about 1,800 or so.
Yeah, there you go. So let's give him a nice bump here tonight. And yeah, check out what he's got. I guess I should have had you sort of talk about your channel there before we got into everything. But really, I mean, if you want to let the folks know, you just recently made the switch to like predominantly horror content. Is that right?
Yeah, so I just switched over to horror, and when I'm talking about horror, you know, I'm not just talking about movies. I do like a lot of collection videos as well. I collect a lot of horror, like memorabilia. We talk about movies, reviews, trailer breakdowns, my thoughts and opinions on movies, just breaking them down. Anything horror, anything you want at all, it's over on my channel, basically. So,
Hell yeah. Awesome. Yeah, guys, check it out. Give him a sub, throw him some love. And
thank
yeah,
you.
let's hop back into The Thing here. So, you know, moving on from overall thoughts, if we want to kind of get into the setup and story. And I mean, by the way, for everyone in the chat, or if you're watching after the fact, like there are going to be spoilers. This movie is like 42 years old. And even not even everything in the story is really like, you know, completely tied up with a neat little bow. That's the fun thing to me, is every time I watch The Thing, because I've probably seen it like 20 times, 20 plus times in my life, but every time I watch it, I'm like, and what happens to that guy again? Like I try to like
Yeah.
remember what order it all goes down in, and like who makes it like the longest and all that stuff. But it is this movie, like almost like the monster, The Thing itself. It's like every time I watch it, I don't know if it's Mandela effect or it just sort of like I forget like who's who and who's the thing, and try. It's almost like following that game of like moving, you know, the ball underneath the cups or whatever. Like, can you
Mm.
find the ball? You know, it's the thing is just there's so much going on. Yet at the same time, it does have that slow burn element. So as far as like the setup and story goes, I mean, it's pretty basic. Like, you know, we're looking at these guys hanging out in an Antarctic, you know, I guess that's just observation, you know, I don't even know what to call it, outpost.
Mm.
And you know, they should know that trouble's up when the helicopter starts rolling up, shooting at this dog and everything, but they don't think anything of it. And what I thought was really interesting, like what I like about the setup and story here, is, you know, when they end up going back to the Norwegian outpost and they find it just in total shambles. I'm like, little did they know that that's like exactly where they're going to be in like 48 hours or however long it is. You know, it's like, it's so interesting how it disintegrates. Almost the same exact thing takes place there with the American team. So was there anything about the setup and the story that, like, did you already kind of know what was happening before going in and watching the movie, or what did you think about the setup and the story of the thing?
Yeah, so the only thing I known about the thing at all is that it was about this like alien-esque creature and that it was in some way going to be causing havoc. I didn't know who anybody was. I didn't know what they were. Honestly, just bouncing off what you said, I still kind of don't really know what they were. I thought for a second it was kind of like a military thing once the helicopter
Mm,
pulled up and, they started fighting. But then I was like, oh, they're like scientists or like observers or something. But then watching
yeah.
through it, I'm like, okay, what are these people? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it felt kind of slow for me. But I didn't know anything until I watched it. So while it was slow, yes, I was able to kind of soak in everything at once and be like, oh, so that's this is that, and just connect all the pieces there.
Yeah, and the thing plays some really interesting games with everyone because, it's like, so the one scientist, what's his name? Blair, that they put out in
Mhm.
they put him out in the little room by himself.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, well, he's probably the thing for maybe the longest out of all of them, for all we know." But when he's smashing up the radios and everything and freaking out and shooting at them, that's just a ploy because he's already the thing at that point. Like,
Hmm.
and so I thought, like, that's really interesting for him to sort of, he wants to secure that at least one, even though, because the thing can be multiple people, but it's still just the one thing essentially, which I think is a pretty interesting thing about the creature. That like one cell of this life form is all it needs to multiply and live on and imitate and all that kind of stuff. So when he gets out in the little shed or whatever, he's like, cool, I got a couple more of my drones inside. They'll fuck up all that shit and make those guys kill each other. And then I can just hang out in here and like build my little spaceship, which
Yeah.
I'm like, that is one of those scenes where I'm like, how the hell are you going to get that UFO out of there? Like, what's the
Yeah.
game plan here? And then at some point, it seems like the thing is like, fuck it, I'll just freeze into another block of ice and somebody will find me and I'll just get to restart, right? Like, I'll
Mhm.
get to be in the city somewhere and wake up, which would be a gnarly movie if they ever wanted to make a legacy
Yeah.
sequel to the thing. Is like the thing makes it to New York or something, and like how quickly does the shit hit the fan there?
Yeah.
um so did you have any, like, did you have any inkling of like who was who, or was the mystery of it all, like, did that play well for you?
Honestly, it did play very well because there were a few times I thought that a certain person was going to have it, but they didn't end up having it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like you said with the doctor, I kind of suspected him the whole time, anyways, just because
Mm.
I don't know if there was anything that specifically stood out and made me suspect him, but I was just like, this guy, he's got to have something up with him.
Yeah, it's really well played by Wilford Brimley, who, like, we all know from the Quaker Oats commercials and the diabetes commercials, like, and it's wild to see him in, going back and watching the thing and being like, he puts in a really awesome performance because you totally buy it. Like, he's just sort of losing his shit. When he's watching the computer and watching like the simulation going down about the cells overtaking the other cells and finding out that it would only take like 27,000 hours to take over the whole planet. And that's when the thing is like, all right, I need to get out of here because I can take
Mhm.
over the whole damn thing. And yeah, Brimley, even when he's in the shed and he's like, I'm all right now. I'm not gonna hurt anyone. He's like,
Yeah.
just kind of like lightly begging for him to like let him out. And yeah, man. I mean, speaking of other great performances, I mean, Keith David here, and then Kurt Russell, man. Kurt Russell's
Mm.
really damn good. There's something about Carpenter and Kurt Russell when they get together. It's just, I don't know. Like, you ever seen like Big Trouble in Little China or Escape from New York or anything like that?
No, I'd seen him after I watched the thing. I was trying to just research and just learn a little bit more about it, and kept seeing those movies pop up, but I've never actually seen them. No.
They are so good. There's something about Carpenter with Kurt Russell. It's just, I don't know. Like, the thing, Big Trouble in Little China and Escape from New York are all like three different kind of movies that are I would say 3 of Carpenter's best for sure. Yeah, and Necro with the killer ice cube emoji there. Yeah, that about sums it up, that big old block of ice that they or I guess the empty block of ice that they find. Yeah. Ja Rare, what's happening, Ja Rare? Welcome to the chat. I think this is your first time, so everyone, welcome Ja Rare to the chat. You're hanging with the Death Squad now. It says one of the best horror remakes made. I've seen this on my Pops VHS tape, a well-made film overall. I think I saw it on VHS the very first time also. Yeah, it's really cool to see it in stunning HD though, because we'll get to those creature effects. I mean, they are shit, those things still stand the test of time. Absolutely. Pilaf Ross, I love that name. It's almost like pilaf rice. This is one of the best films that trust the audience to put the pieces together. And I think it creates a conversation. I think you can definitely say that about The Thing. Like, if you watch this movie, Hayden, with like a group of people, it's like one of those kinds of things where you could watch it, the movie ends, and then you can sit around and like sort of try to sort it all out with everyone and like toss your theories back and forth. And maybe that's one of the reasons why, it's got such a great legacy and, so well beloved for sure. Do you think you're going to revisit it? Maybe if there's a winter storm that hits you there in your part of the country, you think you're going to check it out? It's a great like snowstorm movie. I don't know if you ever get that where you're at.
That would be, we don't get much snow at all, but in the event that we did, that would be a really good and ideal place to rewatch the movie. I'm definitely going to revisit it for sure, but yeah.
Yeah, and let's see here. It's a really good pairing with, have you seen The Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino?
No, I haven't.
It's a really good pairing with that one. You should check, like, if you like Tarantino at all, The Hateful Eight is a lot of fun. To me, it sort of reminds me of like The Thing meets like Evil Dead meets a Western. I don't know. It's like, it's so crazy, like all the things that movie does. It's not like Evil Dead in the sense that there's no like demonic possession, but just some of the gore sort of reaches a level where you're like, holy shit, like this is wild. And the Ennio Morricone, some of the soundtrack that they didn't use from this film, they actually used in The Hateful Eight. So a good little double feature for sure. Ja Rare says the best part of the film is the blood testing scene, very tense and suspenseful. Yeah, that's a good one for sure. Let's see here. We've got characters and performances. We kind of hit that up, but let's make sure we don't lose anyone. We've got the weed smoking cut off sleeves jean jacket wearing guy who for the longest time, I saw that movie, maybe 5 or 6 times. I kept on forgetting that he is The Thing for a good chunk of time in that movie before the blood testing scene. And I just watched the movie, like just rewatched it today. And I love, like, right when they're about to test his blood, he sort of makes this face like, well, here we go. Like he knows exactly how it's going to go. And man, when his head cracks open and he bites windows and he's just like flinging him around or whatever, it's friggin' gnarly. Was there a scene that stood out to you as far as like performances go, or a character that stood out to you? Anything like that?
I mean, honestly, anything that McReady was a part of. So there was that, and then I don't want to get into it too much because we haven't talked about the effects yet, but the like defibrillator scene.
Yeah. Should we just jump to the effects so then we can talk about everything else?
I think we could.
I think, well, because it is one of those things where it's like, man, I guess you just got to kind of get that out of the way. Let's go ahead and jump over, because the effects are one of the best performances in the film. Like, honestly, I mean, the Rob Bottin effects here are, I mean, man, to see them 42 years later, and I don't think you could do any better. Like, I just really don't. Not even practical nowadays. I think with what they did then is just so cool and like otherworldly, and it looks bizarre. Like, it's not trying to look. I think that's like one of the things about it that works so well, is that weird uncanny valley kind of vibe going on with the creature effects. So yeah, man, as a first time viewer of The Thing, what were your thoughts that stood out to you on these visual effects?
Dude, the effects were just incredible. I mean, just like you said, even after everything I've watched before, like any horror movie, I've never watched a horror movie other than like the Terrifier films, but I've never watched one and been like, that was like an insane like kill, or that was a crazy just effect sequence. But like I
Yeah.
was saying just a second ago, the defibrillator scene where he's going to
Yeah.
shock him back to life and the stomach opens up and like bites his arms off.
Yeah.
Uh, oh my gosh, that was crazy. And then just everything else they were doing, it's just I don't know. It gave such an unsettling feeling as you're watching it, and I can't imagine how it felt, for people watching it years and years ago. I'm
Yeah.
sure that was crazy, or even back then. So
Yeah, and it really like catches you off guard. Like once that happens, you're sort of like, well, fuck, anything can happen now.
yeah,
Like you're just sort of waiting for another moment where the thing just like does whatever the hell they want. And yeah, it takes like one nice shock from the defibrillator and then is like, well, I don't like that. And it's just,
yeah,
those jagged like big teeth and just I love that
uh,
every time you see it, it looks different. I think that's like a real big strength of the thing as well, because sometimes when you watch a movie that has a monster, whether it's like A Quiet Place or I don't know, even something like the Smile Monster or whatever, something like that. Whenever you see that monster, there's always like you have expectations of what it's going to be. And so I think that there's always going to be a percentage of the population that's kind of like, oh, it didn't look the way that I like, it looked kind of
mhm,
cringy, or it didn't work for me. But with the thing, it's like every time you see it, it's you're trying to figure out what the hell you're looking at,
yeah,
while the mayhem is going on. It's
uh,
I even noticed like today in the first scene where it reveals itself when it's, with the dogs in the pen, and there's like a spot where you see an eye open up, and then I saw like a second eye open up, and it's
uh,
just this big blobby mass, and it's just I don't know. It's incredible. And also, did you pick up on this? It seems like there's also like this floral kind of element to the thing too. Like it has these little like, when it's the dog and it like peels open like this, it's almost like
yeah,
petals on a flower. And then it had this weird like funnel kind of thing that it shot out
yeah,
at Childs. And so it's this weird blend of like, organic like mammal and then like organic plant. It just
mm,
knocked it out of the park. I mean, the effects here are absolutely incredible. I can only imagine, it's funny, this film got like destroyed by critics and didn't do very well when it came out. So it's really interesting to think like this is one of those movies that didn't like people didn't start looking back on it fondly until like the 90s.
which is
It's
crazy. That's crazy to
yeah.
me that it wasn't as well received when it was released, and I wonder why.
I think it was like E.T. came out like a couple months before or something like that, or maybe even like a week or two before. But it was one of those things where like E.T. represented like the hope and like the all,
Yeah, yeah,
all the
okay,
lovey-dovey kind of stuff. And then the thing comes out and is like, yeah, but what about this dark shit, motherfucker? And so I think it was one of those things that, all the critics at the time were like, gosh, this is just like such a, just a morose film. Like it's just, so dark and depressing and bleak.
mhm,
And so it's, I think for a lot of people, they just sort of looked past, all the positives. And yeah, I mean, horror movies aren't supposed to be happy. I mean, I didn't expect a happy ending anyways. I guess I'm just sort of programmed that way from being a fan, but what
yeah.
can you do? Let's see. I want to catch up with the folks here in the audience, see if anyone's got anything to say about the effects here. Let's see. I am far behind. We got Dark Room reviews in the chat. What's happening, Joel? Great to see you. Shout out to the computer. RIP, pour some out for it. Yeah, when Blair smashes up the computer. And then at the beginning, one of the first things that McCready does is pour whiskey or scotch in his chess
Yeah.
computer, which I love that you had to have a whole computer just for chess back then. In the Mouth of Madness is really good. Dark Room reviews, absolutely. The effects are chef's kiss in this movie, absolutely. This is a movie I still need to see of John Carpenter's. Body Bags. It's his own like kind of creep show anthology kind of thing.
Okay.
I gotta check that out for sure. Jamie says, I wish movies would bring back more practical effects. Yeah, I wish they would too. And even the thing from 2014 or something like that. Have you seen that one, Hayden?
No, they made it again? They remade it?
They called it The Thing, but it's essentially a prequel. So you see what happened to the whole Norwegian crew or whatever, and
Okay.
it's infamous because they did the effects practically, and then the producers were like, go in and put CG over it. So when you watch the
Oh,
movie, it's just CG over what they actually did, and I'm like, I don't even know if there's a cut of the film that you could see with the practical, because by all, like, everything that I've heard in pictures or
mhm.
whatever, like, it looks really, really good. But it's basically, even though it's a prequel, it's like it's kind of the same story because it's another Thing story in
Yeah.
Antarctica, which is like you'd want to move the monster somewhere else, but it would be a totally different kind of movie, you know.
Mm.
Darkroom says one major part about the Thing that doesn't get credit for are the outside scenes, like the spacecraft location. Yeah, the everything outdoors. So I know most people in the chat know this, but I grew up in Juneau, Alaska, and everything that's outdoors in the outpost, it was filmed up in the ice fields there. So they shot that in the Juneau ice
Really?
field, and they would like fly helicopters down to like buy beer and provisions for everyone. But I would imagine, like, I'd imagine the spacecraft, like all that stuff. Maybe they did that in the you know, in Alaska up there. But then, of course, you know, the scenes where they go down in the basement or they go down in that little bunker where Blair is building the UFO. I'm sure those are all, you know, set somewhere. But a nice little tip of the cap to my hometown, because hardly any movies ever get made there. So it's really cool that a movie as cool as The Thing was made there. Pilaf Ross says Ghosts of Mars is a huge guilty pleasure, and the soundtrack is kick-ass. Pilaf, I have not seen Ghosts of Mars. That's the movie with Ice Cube in it that John Carpenter did, and I think it was supposed to be like a third part of the Escape from New York, Escape from LA, but they just couldn't. He couldn't get the rights to Snake or something like that. I don't know. Necro says tendrils like vines. Yeah, that's a really interesting part about the effects, is some of those, like the little tentacle movements that I guess they're probably like reverse film, but they look so believable, you know, just wrapping around the dogs. Every time I see that scene with the dogs, like my heart absolutely breaks.
Yeah.
Like, and the man, the one like lead husky there does such a great job of acting. Like, even at, like right from the beginning when it's running away from the
Yeah.
helicopter and it looks back, and like knowing what you know after you've seen the whole movie and you know how it all shakes out, the next time you watch it, you're not going to, every bit of that dog's like movement, you're going to watch and scrutinize so much more, you know. And it
Mhm.
seems like the acting just, I'm like, man, this dog acts the hell out of everything. Like, even just looking out of the window, like
That's
taking it
actually
all
that's
in.
that's actually something that I thought while I was watching it. I was like, "Man, how do they get these dogs to act like this in movies?" Like,
Yeah, a very special relationship with its trainer, I'm guessing, because man,
yeah.
that dog, like, really, you can sort of like, once you know how the whole story goes, you can sort of see the gears working and it's already developing, you know, its plan. So it's mad respect for the Thing in all of its forms, but man, that dog puts in a hell of a performance.
Yeah.
Big Rod says the FX were so ahead of their time, its critics didn't know how to take it. Yeah, same with the masses. Yeah, they just don't. I think back in 82, I mean, this is like shocking violence for the big screen, you know,
I'd imagine, yeah.
especially for like a major motion picture. Like, the level of gore is like, no, like, compare it with what was coming out in 82, like Friday the 13th part 3. Like, compare that gore with what you see in the Thing, and it's like, it's, you can't even, you know, it's closer to something like Terrifier at times.
Yeah.
Oh, and Big Rod was talking about the chess. As someone who legit has arachnophobia, I squirm during several
Ugh.
scenes. Yeah, it also has that like kind of spider sort of vibe going on. The
Mhm.
legs that just pop out like piping.
Yeah,
I
that was
love that.
killing me. That was killing me. Ugh.
When it's the little head, like after the head rips off, you know, with the whole chest mouth thing,
Yeah.
and the little head, you hear the little
Ugh.
and what's his face is like, even though he's the Thing, I think at that point he's already a Thing, but he looks at it and he's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah.
Great performance right there.
Mm.
Let's see here. What's happening? Frank's Media and Reviews hanging out in the chat. Guys, go give Frank some love if you don't sub over to his channel. Thanks for hanging out with us, Frank. Keep that chin, Prince. One breath. Oh, one step at a time. Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed something from Prince up here. Sorry, guys. Just caught in the conversation. And what's happening, Craig Thomas says, sup, Craig. Dynamite Tiger in the chat. What's happening, Dynamite? Great to see you back in the chat. So yeah, you know, VFX and kills, I mean, top of the line here. Even the matte paintings are really good. Like when they go to the spaceship, I think the ship looks really awesome, you know. Killer matte painting there. All the, you know, pyrotechnics here are pretty awesome as well. There's even a couple, you know, you don't really necessarily see the headshots, but you see the aftermath. They pulled those off pretty well too. And yeah, you know, speaking of the setup and where they're at and everything, you know, being isolated in, you know, the snow in Antarctica, the mood and atmosphere and like the sense of isolation and dread and paranoia in here, maybe the top-notch movie of isolation, you know, paranoia, fear, all that kind of stuff. It's really difficult to think of another one. I think, you know, 1979's Alien does a really good job. But man, The Thing like puts you in that, like you're immediately in MacReady's shoes and completely suspicious of everyone.
Yeah.
You know, was that like something, you know, as a first time viewer, did you pick up on that? Did you get a little bit of that sick feeling in your stomach? I feel like I get that every time I watch this movie.
Yeah, for the mood and everything about the atmosphere, it was very easy for you to kind of get lost in it and kind of place yourself in that situation. Like, what would I do if I was in this weird bunker, like in the middle of nowhere in Antarctica, and this evil
Yeah.
thing is possibly infecting every one of my friends that live with me in this place? So that's something you could think about. And I mean, as far as mood goes, this is kind of sidetracking a little bit, but
Yeah.
Childs, I love his mood throughout the entire movie. He's so fed up and angry with
Yeah.
all of it. I love that. But yeah, the atmosphere and everything, just like you said, it's so unsettling, and I like the idea of having a whole group of people, and it's kind of like not like a whodunit, obviously, but it's like who could possibly be the thing right now. And
Yeah.
that's just one of those things that keep you thinking. So it's just never boring. It wasn't ever a boring like time for me.
Yeah, and even MacReady kind of sums it up because when they're out there, I think they're burning like the remnants because they found out that they weren't totally dead. So when he's burning the remnants or whatever, and he's like, well, I know that I'm not one of those things. And if all of you guys were the thing, then you would just kill me right now. So I know some of you are human too. Like I love that whole, just that, it's like a poker game. You know what I mean? It's just,
That's
the
awesome.
thing is like slowly trying to, of course, like multiply as much as they can, but also not do anything to sort of, you know, tip their hat either way. And that's one of those things where it's like when they start breaking off in groups, I'm like, there should never be 2 people alone. It should always be at least 3 people.
Yeah.
You know, you just never have 2 people go off alone because that's all you need, you know.
Yeah,
But
the two didn't make sense. It was like, what?
And then even when they make some plans, when they're like, all right, it's going to be the 3 of us that go out, MacReady's like, Windows, go back inside and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And it just keeps on ratcheting up. And, you know, everyone starts, you know, feeling like they are going to turn on one another. I mean, even Clark, the guy that takes care of the dogs, like a lot of the time through the movie, I'm thinking like, oh, well, he's got to be infected by the thing. But then we find out when they do the blood test that he wasn't, you know, but he was still going to go after MacReady because he just didn't like the way the whole thing was going. So it's cool how the thing sort of like, even the thing can sort of take its hands off the wheel and let them just sort of eat each other up, you know?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And I mean, again, what Carpenter does here, you know, usually Carpenter does the music as well as the direction, and I think that's like a really big plus of his. But I do think in this movie, handing it off to Ennio Morricone, I think Morricone kind of does a little bit of a Carpenter sort of vibe because he's more known for like the spaghetti westerns and all that kind of stuff. But even the music here has that sort of like, the main theme just has that like bum, bum, bum,
Yeah.
you know, that little like weird sort of like low heartbeat kind of rumble. And the sound design. I mean, I think, you know, one thing that's easy to forget with like when we talk about the visual effects is like how the sound is such a big part of that, whether it's the feet, you know, the little spider feet walking around, or the
Yeah.
crazy unsettling moan that the thing lets out, like whenever it's, you know, morphing or getting burned
Yeah.
up or whatever. But really the soundtrack is like pretty low key, you know? It's nothing like, as a first time viewer, did anything really stand out to you other than that little bit of atmosphere it provides?
No, I was thinking the same exact thing. I knew that we were about to talk about this tonight, so I was trying to pay attention to the music because I was like,
Mhm.
I'm sure this is probably going to come up in conversation. And just like
Yeah.
you said, it's just so slow and subtle, and then it's just like the boom boom, and then it's just slow and then boom boom. And I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, it serves its purpose for what it's showing in the movie. It's not like I would watch the movie and get mad that there wasn't more like musical element or anything in it. But
Yeah.
it was average for me too. There was nothing, not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, and I think it's just sort of trying to add to the unsettling nature. Like, it doesn't want you to feel comforted by a melody. You know, the music isn't here
Yeah.
to, like, take you away or distract you. It's like, "No, no, no, you're stuck in this place with these guys." You know, like, we're not gonna the music ain't gonna be fun. And Craig Thomas, chimes in. Welcome to the chat, by the way, Craig. First
Same
time
here.
here, so everyone say, "What's up?" Craig says, haven't actually seen John Carpenter's The Thing, but it's supposed to be really good, so I might have to check it out sometime. Yeah, Craig, it's on Peacock, so even if you have that streaming service, you can check it out over there. I highly recommend checking this one out. You know, I mean, it's a classic and definitely worth a watch, especially if you live in a place like we were talking earlier. If you live in a place that gets snowstorms, you can watch it in the middle of a snowstorm. It's absolutely perfect for that. Um, and Big Rod echoes that absolutely. Frank's median review says the ending is classic, so ominous. Yeah, the ending is one of those things where, you know, everyone says, so the big debate is Child's the thing, because when McCready's breathing, you see the breath. When they switch over to Child's, you don't see the breath, but that might just be the lighting. So that might
Mm,
have just been the way they shot it. And then they even say when Child's drinks from the bottle, that like that's actually supposed to be like one of the Molotov cocktails that they had. And that was like a test for
okay.
McCready. And that's why McCready like chuckles after he drinks it. Because the thing wouldn't know the difference between
Yeah.
alcohol and gasoline. So, you know, it's like one of those things. And I think Carpenter's like, oh, I don't even know if one of them or both of them are the thing. Like, I don't want to, like, it's meant for the conversation. Like, did you feel a certain way like watching the movie at the end? Were you like, oh, one of them's got to be the thing? Or did you just think they're both dead and they actually killed the thing? Hurrah.
Well, I 100% thought that at any given moment, Childs was going to reveal himself and try to kill McCready because it was a what he say? He come back in and he said he got lost in the storm outside because he was asking
Yeah.
him where he was. Yeah, I was like, okay, sure. We're about to see how lost you got, you know.
Yeah.
But
Real convenient.
yeah, but I didn't get any like theories going or anything. I just thought that was that, and then when it didn't happen, I was like, oh, okay. I
Yeah.
figured they just killed it and just survived.
Yeah, and they sort of like it's one of those things where it's like, and maybe he is the thing and he reveals himself. We're just not going to see it. So it's one of those
Yeah.
interesting, like another kind of, you know, something that horror films did, especially in that time, where you just sort of like leave it unresolved. You know, you kind of leave that everything is suspended, everything is still like there's still that tension in the air, and then it just cuts. You know, kind of like Michael Myers not being there on the grass, like
Mhm.
at the end of Halloween. You know, and it's like there is no real happy ending here. Like, yes, they survived for now, but you know, this isn't going to go down well for anyone. Um, yeah, absolute classic ending. And we got our guy Matt Facci in the chat. What's happening, Facci? Great to see you. Everybody, let us know in the comments or in the comments after the fact or in the chat right now. Do you think Childs is the thing at the end of the movie? Do you think McCready's the thing? Are they both the thing? Are they both humans? I want to. That's what I should have done in the poll. That really should have been the poll. What the hell am I doing? What am I doing, Hayden? Speaking of the poll, 66% of people that voted out of 36 votes say The Thing is John Carpenter's best film. How many John Carpenter films have you seen, Hayden?
The Thing now, obviously Halloween. Um, is They Live John Carpenter?
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen They Live. That might be it. I'm not too familiar with who directs what. I kind of just turn something on and watch it, you know.
No, I hear you. Yeah, and I think like the more you watch, the more you'll just like, at least the way I am, like I always pull out my phone. I'm like, what else did this guy do? Or like,
Yeah.
what other movies was this person in? So what would you say out of the John Carpenter films you've seen, which one is your favorite?
I gotta go with Halloween.
Yeah,
It's just such a
Halloween's really damn
classic.
good. Yeah, I would say like I definitely think the argument can be made that like technically speaking, The Thing is a better film. Like as far as like, I
Mm,
mean, you still have Dean Cundey shooting it. He was the director of photography on the first 3 Halloween films. He also like ended up shooting a bunch of Spielberg stuff too. So he did like Jurassic Park and I think he did E.T. So he did
okay.
E.T. and then jumped over and did The Thing. And like I think you can say that technically like The Thing is a better film for sure. I would pick Halloween, I think, just because I'm a Halloween guy. I love Michael Myers so much,
Yeah.
and I love the mystery there. But I mean, man, The Thing is really damn impressive. I couldn't hate on anyone for saying that it's the better film. I wouldn't even, couldn't even argue with them. um, Now let's see here. I've got Jamie put up something that I had up there, but I wanted to read it. There was something very Hitchcockian about The Thing. The suspense, the cinematography, the music, it all reminds me of Hitchcock. And I can totally see that, Jamie. It's got that vibe, Hitchcock had a lot of that tension and a lot of that, kind of paranoia in his films for sure, whether it's Vertigo or Psycho or Rear Window, really tense films for sure. Um, and let's see here. Fauci says, hot take, The Thing isn't even top 3 for me out of Carpenter's movies. And I guess I can't blame you there either, Matt, because especially when you like, Halloween, In the Mouth of Madness, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York, The Thing, The Fog, like that's 6 really good John Carpenter movies that I can think of. So I can totally see it not being in a top 3 for sure. What's happening, Cheesy Corn Pop? Great to see you hanging out in the chat. Let's see what else we got here. That heartbeat music just adds to the suspenseful atmosphere. I think
Mm,
so. I think it's purposely like understated, the music in this one. And a good choice by John Carpenter, because I think if he had done the music, it might have been a bit too boisterous. Because that was kind of his vibe, especially back then. No worries, Nicholas. It's all good. 21 likes. Holy cow. Way to go, everybody. Pilaf Ross says the music complements and adds to the suspense as opposed to modern horror, which substitutes that for unnecessary music that can ruin the immersion. Yeah, sometimes just a bit too much of the music. Or trying to use the music to scare you all the damn time. I don't know.
mm.
What's like your favorite horror movie that you've seen in the last 5 years? Is it Terrifier 2?
Um, I don't know. That's hard because there's just something about the Terrifier movies that just grasped at me, and I
Mm.
instantly fell in love with them. But I gotta think about all the movies I've seen the last 5 years. I'd say something that's definitely up there for me is The Black Phone. I really like The Black Phone.
I need to
Um,
check that one out. I haven't seen it yet.
and you're missing out. You definitely need to watch that. I think it's probably on Peacock as well, so you should go and check
Okay.
that one out. And another one is if you've seen Jordan Peele's Nope.
No, I haven't seen that one.
That's also a really good one that I think is on
Okay.
Peacock as well. So out of those 3 though, it's probably just a top 3 thing. Nope, The Black Phone, and Terrifier 2 for sure.
Sweet. And have you grown up? Have you been a horror fan for a really long time? Or are you relatively new to the genre?
Yeah, no, I as young as I can remember, my dad was showing me horror movies, whether it be like
Nice.
your typical slashers or sometimes he turned on a sci-fi channel and we'd watch something stupid like
Yeah.
ice spiders or
Oh
something.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, those movies are great. Those just ridiculous creature features like those
yeah,
Asylum movies or whatever. Yeah, I get a kick out of those for sure. I love myself like a movie that's bad but knows it's bad and just has fun with it,
yeah.
It's the best. It's the best. Big Rod says you can't kill McCready. That hat gives him too many hit points. Yeah, he's got that hilarious like sombrero kind of thing that he's got going on. It's really funny. Big Rod says my gut tells me Childs is the one who's assimilated with the thing. Yeah. There is something is up there. And then Jamie even says, I think Childs is the thing at the end. I 100% think that Mac gave Childs a Molotov cocktail to drink and not actual whiskey. Yeah, that chuckle he has is telling. So the next time you watch it, Hayden, just keep that in mind, because that's one of those things where he sort of laughs like he knows, just like he said right before he gave him the bottle. He's like, if one of us is the thing, the other one can't do anything about it at this point. You know,
Yeah.
they're just waiting to fall asleep and die. Hayden just became my hero of the night. Definitely hopping over to sub after the stream. There you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right, here we go. Christine is up there for Tyler. Tyler, welcome to the chat, man. I forgot Christine is really damn good too. Have you seen that one?
I've actually never seen Christine. Is that the car one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've
really
never seen
cool.
that one.
It's based on a Stephen King book, and it's got like, you know, Carpenter did, his music is amazing. The visual effects are really cool. Like, and Christine has such a personality. I didn't think that a car could have personality, but holy crap. Like, it's amazing the amount of personality they work into that just by, you know, shooting it creatively. And yeah, Christine was kind of surprised me how much I enjoyed it. Are you a big, like, what do you think of the David Gordon Green Halloween movies? Are you a fan of those?
2018 Halloween, I'm a really big fan of. Halloween Kills, I think it was okay enough for me to watch it and think it was a decent movie. Halloween Ends is not my cup of tea at all. I do not
All right.
like Halloween Ends.
That's a pretty good gradual, like, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people sort of feel that way. I mean, the people that don't like Ends definitely, like, that's sort of the way it goes, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, Kills for me, I warm up to more and more of it every time I see it, but it gets derailed there for a little bit, which is always the big hurdle for me. But I do like a lot about Kills.
There's
The
just
Black
certain
Phone.
scenes in Kills for me. The certain scenes like obviously the firefighter scene,
Mhm.
um, and then the scene, I can't remember exactly where it is in the movie, but it's like the girl who was with the nurse and she's going after Myers with the gun and he kicks the door open and she flips the
Yeah.
gun on herself. That was so creative to me. I love that scene.
Yeah, that whole scene's got plenty of attention where they're at like the playground or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
some good shit for sure. Yeah, Big Rod says the Black Phone's a good watch too. I think, is it Scott Derrickson that directed that movie? Ethan Hawke's in that one, right?
Yeah, Ethan Hawke plays the main antagonist or
All right. Yeah, I got to check that one out
protagonist.
because
Technically.
I like seeing Ethan Hawke in some horror movies. I think it's usually works out pretty good.
Especially, well, I'm a big Blumhouse fan, so and I know a lot of people are probably going to look at me sideways for that, but I always say anytime I cover a Blumhouse movie, I say it's either a steaming pile of crap or it's going to be something that really sticks with me and is really good. And so
Yeah.
after I saw that Ethan Hawke was going to be the grabber in the Black Phone, and you know after his performance of his character in Sinister in the Sinister movie, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm hooked immediately. But now it seems like the Black Phone's kind of gotten successful enough to where Blumhouse is using that to kind of drive their entire like new production line. It's like every Blumhouse movie you see now, the trailer for it, it's going to pop up somewhere from the creators of the Black or from the producers of the Black Phone, like in all
Yeah.
of them. And so I guess that speaks for how good it was. I think it was a really good movie.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. I loved Sinister. I thought Sinister was great.
Hmm.
Really fun stuff. Yeah, so you know, I mean, getting back to the thing, we kind of hit up all the topics that we wanted to discuss here. You know, I mean, for me, just as like a kind of closing thoughts on it, this is a movie I try to watch at least once a year. When Kate and I were living in Portland, whenever it would snow there, we'd always put on the thing. And then usually the Hateful Eight. And man, in Portland, usually when it snows, it doesn't happen every year, but it's like really bad because the city doesn't plan for it. So the whole place gets shut down. So
Mm,
you can't really go anywhere. Like
yeah.
you know, they stop running the train, they stop running the buses and all that stuff, and they don't plow the roads. So like you don't want to be driving if you can avoid it. So but now that we're in the desert, had to just kick the AC on a little bit and check it out today here
Yeah.
before jumping in. But this one for me, like Hayden, I really am interested in knowing, you know, how, you know, the next time you revisit this, if it makes you like it a little bit more, if there's something like, because to me, I think this movie has so much meat on the bone that it really does take multiple viewings. And then maybe your third or fourth viewing, like I'm a big rewatcher. That's kind of the way I am.
Mhm.
Like third or fourth viewing, you might just like, boom, like it clicks and you've like fallen in love with this thing. Because like I said, maybe watching it like a dozen times, I still was figuring out like who's who here.
Yeah.
So I love that aspect of the film. And I think that's one of the things that like the mystery really holds up. The performances are great. The Rob Bottin visual effects are out of this world. I love the way that, you know, Dean Cundy shoots this thing, and the Ennio Morricone soundtrack doesn't get in the way. So, you know, for me, it is, sorry, Matt Facci, this one is a top 3 John Carpenter film for me, for sure. And one that I'm really happy to have in my collection, because I'm not the biggest collector per se, but The Thing is definitely a
Mhm.
movie that I have to have a physical copy of for sure.
That's awesome, man. It's so cool to hear just like your passionate thoughts on it as someone who saw it, long ago, as
Yeah,
opposed to me who just seen it for the first time. But I feel like we can definitely level on most things here. Like I said, I don't think it's a
yeah.
bad movie. We both agreed on just the slow pacing at certain points.
Mm,
But definitely, I'm gonna be rewatching it. I'll probably have to watch it, like you said, a couple times to fully understand what's going on at certain points. But for
yeah.
my first time through, overall, it was a pretty good experience. So
Hell
I'd
yeah.
recommend it to anyone else in the chat. Craig, I'm looking at you, who hasn't seen this movie.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a fan of John Carpenter films, if you're a fan of horror, if you like creature features, if you just like really cool gore effects, like I think there's something for a lot of different folks. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's a movie that was made in 1982 and it takes its time getting to where it's going. But man, when it reaches those heights, when that, you know, I don't want to spoil it now that we've already talked about some of the spoiler stuffs and new people are here. But the one scene that you brought up, Hayden, once that happens, you're just sort of like, oh my God, like anything could happen at any point, you know? And
Yeah,
I think that's a really cool thing about, you know, what the movie accomplishes. And what I do love about it as well is that it's got a legacy that's just gotten stronger and stronger as the years have gone on, which I think is really cool. It's too bad it wasn't well received when it came out, because maybe John Carpenter's career would have gone a little bit of a different direction.
mm,
But it is awesome that we can, you know, celebrate it today, and it can be something that's lifted up, and that, you know, people in the younger generations that missed it when it came out, or even missed it when it was on VHS, can, you know, watch it in all of its stunning HD glory. So yeah, this was fun, man. Maybe we need to have another chat and see if there's maybe a movie that you're really into that you've watched for a long time that I've never seen, and we can sort of flip the tables the next time around. I don't know. Let
yeah.
us know in the chat, guys. Do you want to see a little bit more of Hayden and Davey, and maybe we, yeah, turn everything around here, and I can be the newbie? That can be kind of our thing, is longtime fan versus newbie. And we'll just rotate who's the newbie. I felt bad about using that word a little bit, and I was like, oh, but it makes sense.
No,
Like, we're
I
not like,
understood. I
you know,
understood.
we're not duking it out or anything over the
No.
movie. um, let's see here. Craig says this is random, but what's y'all's thoughts on PG, like PG rated movies? I don't know. I mean, Jaws is PG and it's my favorite movie of all time. So I guess it just depends on what era of PG, or maybe you mean something else. I don't know, Craig. Let me know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on PG movies?
I mean, I can get them to an extent. It
Hmm.
just depends for me because, like I said, I'm a big Blumhouse fan. So
Yeah,
majority of the movies they come out with always end up being PG. So there's just like no substance other than, oh, I'm scared of this thing.
sure.
But there's nothing under that. So, but for certain movies, I can kind of give them a pass and understand.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because like back in the 70s, it was either PG or R. I think that's all they had back then. So it was, you know, it was just like, so Jaws, of course, Jaws was going to be PG, even though like now you'd be like, oh, that could be PG-13 or R, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
but I guess they just felt like it had enough working for it where it wasn't like exploitative or anything like that. Kind of like how you can make Saving Private Ryan and it gets R-rated, but if you did that in a horror movie, they would want to like put an X rating on it or do, you know, make it not rated or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, he's asking about Psycho Goreman. I've not seen Psycho Goreman. I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen it either. It's just funny. We had a whole talk about something he wasn't even meaning to say.
But now Jamie's chiming in here. I want less PG, more R. There you go. Thank you so much, Eli. I'll run out to the mailbox once we're all done here. I meant PG, Psycho Goreman. Point guard? There's so much. PG can mean so much. But thank you for clearing it up. I've not seen Psycho Goreman, so hopefully the AI puts together a little short of us talking about PG, because I can do that. StreamYard can do a little AI short. We'll see if they grab that one. The X rating was a big thing back then. Yeah. Well, and even like Romero's, like technically Dawn of the Dead is unrated and Day of the Dead's unrated. I think even Night might be unrated as well. Because back then, you like an R rating was pretty much like a death sentence. So, you know, Romero was like, screw it. We're just going to do whatever we want and we'll put it out not rated, you know. Jamie, you didn't see Psycho Goreman in the theater? Come on. That's the big joke over here, Hayden, is Jamie's seen every movie in the damn theater.
Oh,
every movie from like 1970 to now, she's seen in the theater.
Finally.
So yeah, guys, let us know if you have any other. Was there anything that we missed, you guys, in the chat or in the comments watching after the fact? Is there anything that we missed that you guys want us to cover here for John Carpenter's The Thing? I think we pretty much got everything you know, figured out here as far as our feelings from the long-term fan or the long-time fan from my perspective, and then Hayden's perspective as you know, a first-timer here. I believe Temple of Doom was responsible for PG-13 rating. It was one of those movies. Yeah, Temple of Doom and Poltergeist were the two big ones. Yeah. Yeah. So Hayden, what do you have coming up here on your channel within the next? Do you have anything coming out this week or anything planned for spooky season yet?
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm dropping my review for the new Speak No Evil movie. I filmed that. I'm getting the final touches on it. I'm going to release that tomorrow. And then I want to prepare for the Terrifier movie, Terrifier 3. I want to take, I've done dives into the movies before, but I want to take each movie and give it its own video and just make a really extensive dive and break down into each of them. And I think I'm going to start at the All Hallows Eve film, because for some reason, something's telling me that this is going to start playing a part in Terrifier soon. So I'm going to start there. And then something really cool I want to do for October, which I'm still kind of planning it out because I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it possible yet. But I kind of want to start like late September and start watching a movie and make like an in-depth movie review, like for each like day of October leading up to Halloween. And then I want to lead up to Halloween 1978, since it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So
doing a video, one video a day.
One a day, every day.
Wow.
For October. I'm going to try.
Gosh.
I've gone on streaks before, but they've only ever lasted probably 2-3 weeks of me being able to keep up with daily videos. But that's something that I really want to work on. So I think I'm going to try and do that for October, but we'll see. That's still early planning phase. I'm going to see if it's possible. But
yeah, for me, the editing just gets crazy. But I mean, if you can just kind of go off the top of your head, like I think that's one of the things that I like about going live is it's like, even if I flub a word or whatever, it's like you just go past it. But whenever I do pre-recorded, I'm so like, dude, that sounded weird. You got to reshoot that. And then and then
all the time.
Yeah, and then editing the takes, like finding the takes I want to keep, and then all the editing seems like it takes twice as long and all that kind of stuff. So, man, that's awesome. That would be incredible to do. Yeah, movie review every day for the month of October, and then on Halloween night you would put out or on Halloween day you would put out your Halloween 78 review. Hell yeah, man. Do you script when you do your videos? Do you script them, or you just kind of write down bullet points?
I don't write anything. I don't script anything. Everything I talk about and say is just 100% off the dome. And that's only to keep me from having to do any extra work, since I already work a full-time job. So YouTube for me at this current state is kind of just like I don't want to call it like a hobby, because I really wish it would turn into more than a hobby. But
yeah.
So I find time in between. There will be times I'm like at my job editing videos. So
There you go.
yeah, I don't really pride myself in writing or scripting or anything. I kind of just try to do it off the dome. But I feel like that leads to me having to edit out a lot more than I would like to as well, though, because I stutter, I trip over words. You know, I say something
Sure.
and then I think about it and I'm like, why did I say that? No, cut that out. And
It it is odd the stuff that when you sit down to shoot something, you're like, wait, that didn't really like why I know how I feel about this thing. Why can't I talk about it when I know the
yeah,
record button's on? And then, you know, I think for me, yeah, scripting is like I'm not super like yeah, it takes so long, right? It's just another thing that you have to spend a lot of time on. I love
mhm,
writing those bullet points though, because every now and then I'll be sitting there editing and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to say this thing that I really wanted to say. And then you have to
yeah.
set
I
everything
face
up and
that.
try to
I
make
face
it
that problem.
match.
Yeah, I
So I'm
face
like,
that
man,
problem.
yeah, if I just have like my 6 or 7 things that I absolutely want to make sure I don't leave out, they sort of act as like launch pads to like everything else and all that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's really fun. I definitely got to get back into the pre-recorded game. So yeah, man, that's something to really look forward to. Guys, if you have not gone over and sub to Hayden's channel, go ahead and do that now. The link is in the description below if you're watching this after the fact. And then Jamie and Eli have both posted it in the chat as well. So you guys can check out Hayden. He's cracked 1,800 on his way to 2,000 subs. So let's give him a nice little bump in that direction. And then I also included Hayden's Instagram in the description below too. So if you want to, you know, just be able to get extra notifications and alerts as to what's going on his channel, you are not going to want to miss a video a day. Holy crap, that's
yeah,
amazing. That is such a gift to be able to give that to your audience, man. That's really incredible. I wish I could do that, but I know I just don't have it in me.
yeah.
But I
It's
definitely
I could see it being tough, you know, it like I said, I'm still gonna plan it. I'm not sure, um, what probably what I'll have to end up doing is, like, a day I'm off work or whatever, sometimes I'll do this already, I can maybe pre-record, like, 3 videos,
yeah.
and then that way I have them ready to, like, edit and upload, so in the
Mhm.
event I get too busy and I can't film something, I'll have 1 on the back burner at least, so
Yeah. That's the way to go is yeah, do it in bulk like that. That's what you know, Christian from Planet CHH. I don't know if you're a sub or if you watch his channel.
I think so, I
Um,
think I'm subbed over there.
he was on I have a show called Late Night with the Davey that he was on a couple months ago, and he was like, yeah, when I have like because he works these like rotating shifts at his job. So when he
Mhm.
has like the shift where he's up all throughout the middle of the night on his days off, he just shoots for like 8 to 12 hours, like throughout the whole middle of the night and just puts together just backloads or backlogs
Yeah.
everything, which is, I mean, that's the way to go for sure. I definitely want to get there. But I love hanging out with the people in the chat so much that I do lives a lot. And that just
Mhm.
sort of it takes a little bit of that planning time and everything else away from you. But I definitely got to get more into that pre-recorded game for sure. So yeah, guys, I guess we're pretty good here. I think we can sort of wrap it up. We're just over an hour talking about the thing from the long time fans perspective and Hayden's perspective as a first timer. It was great having you on here, Hayden. Thank you so much for joining me. Guys, please check out Hayden's channel. The links are in the chat and in the description below. So go give him a sub. I'll be back on Wednesday for Late Night with the Davey. We've got Mel from My Killer Podcast on. And yeah, guys, if you're a channel member, check out the post that I made just the other day so you can ask Mel a question, because moving forward on Late Night, we're going to do a whole Q&A section where the members get to have their questions asked to the guest and responded to. So yeah,
That'd be fun.
that'll be my next time hopping on here, and then we'll have to bring on Hayden sometime in the future. I'm booking November now, so maybe we can cook a little something up for you, Hayden. And
Works.
yeah, man, any last words you've got here before we sign off for the evening?
Only last words I have to say, thank you to the chat for being very welcome. Thank you, Davey, for having me here on your channel. Once again, already a big fan, so it was awesome to do this with you. And I'm glad you got me to watch the thing for the first time, because I feel like I would have missed out if I weren't to see this. So I really appreciate that. And just
Hell
thank
yeah.
you. So.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for reaching out. This has been really fun. You guys are awesome for hanging out in the chat with us. Thank you so much for kicking it. Thank you to all the channel subs. Everyone that dropped a like, please don't forget to hit that like if you're watching this after the fact. Thank you to all the channel members. We've got like 37 of you guys, which is incredible. And to our patrons as well, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been a blast, and that's going to be it for us tonight. Oh, thank you to all the channel mods, all the Death Squad mods. You guys are awesome. So yeah, guys, until next time, he's Hayden, and I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.